Growth Cultivated, a Blue Bonsai Group podcast where we explore smarter, more sustainable growth for health, wellness, and aesthetics businesses. I'm your host, Michelle Casini. Today, I'm excited to welcome Dr. Shelly Hingle, the co-founder at Restoration Dental, which is a thriving, patient-centered practice known for its exceptional patient experience and over 400 five-star Google reviews. Welcome, Dr. Hingle. How you doing today?
Good. It is a good morning. Typical.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I want to jump in and just find out, you and Restoration Dental have 400 Google reviews, which really speaks to your patient-centered approach. So I'm curious how you cultivate such a strong patient satisfaction and encourage such a positive feedback in an industry where a lot of people and patients feel anxiety when they go to the dentist.
It's something that we hear all the time when patients come in. I'm really afraid of the dentist. Ooh, I don't like being here. This isn't my favorite place. Those are common, everyday things we hear all day. And it's warranted because we can be a scary place to be. We're not the most fun chair to be sitting in, for sure. So we understand that when you walk in the door. And we try to make sure patients know that, hey, we get it. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to try to make things worse. We want to make it as pleasant as possible while you're sitting in the chair.
Wonderful. And so because they have that pleasant experience and you're making them feel comfortable, obviously I'm sure that they are more willing to write a review. How do you do that process though of actually asking them for the review, or are these coming up just organically where they are going and really writing the reviews themselves? Or can you talk a little bit to that and how you prompt that?
So I have a partner, Dr. Crystal Patel, and we own the practice together, and I think she and I both struggle to ask for reviews. I mean, it's an uncomfortable thing to do nowadays. Actually, it's not like it was years ago where you go to your practitioner and then there it is. Okay, great. And you're done with your appointment. People Google everything and they look up your practice and they want to know other people's experience. And that's how they do it. They look at the reviews and they judge you before they walk in the door, and they won't book that appointment if they don't see good reviews before they walk in the door. So it is something we struggle with, even with our staff. We don't like to ask our staff to do ask them, but we don't like to ask them because we feel uncomfortable asking for those reviews.
Feels forced.
Yeah, it feels forced. And it's an uncomfortable conversation of, can you write a review about me? That feels unnatural. So we rely on technology. We work with a software that sends out hey, how was your appointment? Please leave us a Google review at the end of people's appointments. And if people leave that review, it is so appreciated. And we let them know that we appreciate that. We have a little sign at the front desk where they can scan the QR code. And some staff do feel more comfortable to be like, oh, if you want to leave us a review, but we never try to force that on.
That's great. And obviously you make it comfortable enough for them that it sounds like they're seeing it in a few different places. So you've got, a reminder there, you're sending them follow up, via email or text so that when they're comfortable and have the time to do it, they're going to take that time. So kudos to Restoration Dental though, because that is really, really impressive. That you've been able to not only conquer it, but build that many reviews, over the past few years. So
thank you.
Another way. Yes, of course. Also, another way that I think what you've mentioned to me before in trying to make the patient feel comfortable is by providing them with estimated costs before they even walk in. So there's no surprises, but I know you really have this commitment to financial transparency to help build the trust of your patients. So if you could just speak a little bit to that in terms of how that works, why that might differentiate you in the market, we'd love to hear more about that.
We are really trying. As an industry, it is hard because I think dentistry, and Dr. Patel, my partner, and I have talked about this, the push in healthcare is suddenly going towards corporate healthcare, in all fields of healthcare. And whatever happens with hospitals and private practices with physicians, it starts a trickle down effect and it starts to affect dentistry. And you'll see it in other fields of healthcare, optometry and chiropractics and you name it, it's going to trickle down. And we have seen a giant push on corporate dentistry now, where private equity comes in, they come in, they eat it up, and suddenly it's a mill and it's all about the numbers. And it's hard as a privately owned practice, because when the people are out there in those environments of corporate dentistry, there isn't a lot of transparency. And then people get that sense of distrust. Well, I got a bill for $1,200 or whatever it is because they told me it would be covered by my insurance and it wasn't covered. They weren't in network with my insurance. Name the thing that is wrong with it, right? They start to name that. And we kind of have to nod our heads and say, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. It's just the way it is nowadays. Like, you don't know what you're walking into, because sometimes it's even hidden that they're a corporate office, or they'll suddenly say, well, my doctor was there and then my doctor was gone and then I saw somebody else and the plan completely changed. And because people don't practice similarly either, you have to come up with your own treatment plan and all of that, and the treatment plan changes. So there's a lot of mistrust that comes along with that as well. And there's a lot of just general lack of knowledge on how dental insurance works. I'm not even the expert on that. Like, my reception and my front desk staff and my office manager is actually more of the expert on that. I mean, you ask me something clinical, I've got it, but I have to stop sometimes and go, wait, what is the insurance doing on this? Because it's just a whole other field. Dental insurance does not work the same as medical insurance. There's a deductible with your medical insurance, and once that deductible is met, you're covered at whatever it is, and your medical insurance picks up a lot of the cost, generally speaking. Dental insurance does not work that way. There is a maximum, and once you hit that maximum, you're not covered anymore. So it's just a completely different set of rules, and people don't quite grasp that either. So there's a little bit of the mistrust because they're getting billed for things and things aren't being explained. And then there's a little bit of mistrust because they don't function the same as your other types of insurances out there. So we think it's really important to be transparent and give them that estimated cost and let them know that, hey, this is our best effort. This is what we think this is what you need. This is what we think it's going to cost, based on what your insurance estimate is giving us.
Well, and you're doing the legwork prior to make sure that their insurance is up to date, to make sure that based on whatever services they might need during that appointment, everything is itemized and they can understand you may not necessarily need all these services, but potentially if we find this or that, then they've got that heads up before they go into the chair, which I think is really, really important. And so I think you hit on something too in terms of just, educating patients, because it is very different than medical insurance, dental insurance. And so I guess my question would be then, how do you keep patients educated?
We love educating patients in the chair. Hey, this is what's going on. Let me show you what it is. Let me show you your x-rays. Let me show you why it is I would plan it this way, and what will happen if we don't treat this, or what the potential future looks like of this. Even things as taking a step back and saying, hey, this is what's going on now, but we need to work on your hygiene, be preventative in the future, because we don't want you to have to come in and have a cavity every time you come in. But that takes commitment from what you're doing at home and some changes, right? There's education in the now, hey, this is what's going on now, and this is what you need now treatment wise. And then there's the preventative education that we try to do. Hey, we want to prevent future work education. Our front desk staff is really great at educating the patient on the insurance, and they do that like, hey, these are your benefits. This is what your plan is. And that's why they do all this legwork before the patient comes in. This will get covered. This isn't covered, XYZ. And this is what the insurance is telling us right now. And then let's say the patient has to come in for some fillings, and we do a group of fillings. After those fillings are done, they get a new estimate based on the payment that was given out. Hey, now your insurance is saying this, and this is what the coverage was. So this is now your new estimate of whatever's left. or hey, you're done with everything. This should be it for the year, or whatever it is. We try to keep them updated as they come through the process for any time they walk in the door. It's not just the initial time they walk in the door as the treatment's occurring for future appointments as well.
Got it. And so, it's an ongoing process because obviously each patient is completely different. Their insurance is different. Their situation is different. But I'm also curious to understand if and how you may be utilizing technology to keep in touch with your patients as well too, whether it be through traditional means of phone or text messaging, or even utilizing social media and having a presence that people can follow.
Yeah, we are. I will fully admit I am not the most social media savvy, and my partner as well. We are. She's not the most social media savvy. We try our hardest to get the content. We're not the best at pulling out our phones and snapping that picture, and it's kind of an awkward conversation at times. Patients to be like, "Hey, can I get this picture of you?" And "Hey, can I post it online?" And then there's this whole aspect of, "Hey, I think I need to get something signed from you before I can post it online because of HIPAA laws. And can you sign that before you walk out the door?" It's an awkward conversation to have for sure. We are always trying to improve ourselves on that because we have an Instagram. We post on it probably like once a week. We should be posting on it much more than that in this day and age. And it's something we struggle with. We do. And we don't like to, like, our staff is busy and to be like, "Hey, can you grab those pictures and send it?" It's another added thing we have to ask our staff to do. And we don't always like to do that. So, especially in the week.
Well, and it also, you want to make sure that you're front and center for your patients. Being in a smaller practice like that, you have to prioritize what's most important, and the patients that are with you there are front and center. And again, there's so much technology out there that could potentially, support something like that. Hopefully help your front desk make things a little bit easier or more efficient for them. And especially in this age of AI, really, really coming into the mainstream, I'm curious to see if there are things that you and your partner, Dr. Patel, are looking into to help streamline some of your inner workings and procedures for that front desk so that you can ensure patient quality, but at the same time be efficient.
We are really excited about AI. I am just personally me. I think we struggle with, there's just so much that we try to do for the patients that it would be nice to, there's certain things that you absolutely must be there for. We need faces there. We want to be friendly faces. We want to be able to answer those questions immediately. And there's some things that you need to be there front and center for. And then the phone's ringing on the side. And somebody else is waiting on a treatment plan. And somebody's waiting on this. And somebody's waiting on that. And those things just start to pile up when you're trying to put in the FaceTime as well. So I'm really excited about AI and what it can do for us. We've already incorporated AI into our billing process. We are using a company that is, as the claims come in, they are taking the patient's EOBs, those are the explanation of benefits, and they're pairing them up, and it's auto logging all those payments into the patient accounts. So somebody doesn't have to sit there and manually do it. That is a full-time job that somebody has to sit there and do. The claims, what got denied, what needs an appeal, writing appeals for claims that get denied. We do that in the background because we didn't even bother the patient with that. We always try, if something gets denied, for whatever the silly reason that the insurance company decided to deny this for. "Oh, you didn't send in an x-ray." No, we did send in an x-ray. Now we have to resend it in. Or no, we don't think, or if we have to fight a little bit harder. "Oh no, the patient didn't need this procedure. We don't agree." No, they did need the procedure. Who are you to say they didn't? You're not a provider. So we try to send in those appeals. AI has been useful for that even because just ChatGPT, great. I need an appeal, some kind of outline, so that way I don't have to sit there and write up the entire thing out of nothing. here's the information. Give me an outline so that way I can start tweaking it and putting it in the way I need it to be. It saved tons of times for that staff member to be able to utilize that. Those are two great ways that we're already using it. We just started using an AI front desk. So after our calls are now being picked up by AI instead of going to our voicemail. It's been, we literally started this probably a week and a half ago. And it's been great so far. We have it linked up with my text and with my partner's text. So if there's something high priority, it immediately comes to us. We used to have to find time on the weekends or after hours to just log in online and check the text messages and check the voicemails to make sure there were no emergencies that we needed to address, because we're a private practice and we want to address them with our patients. But now it comes to us and we can kind of filter through them. And if somebody needs to be contacted, I can figure out, okay, I'll contact him, or no, I'll call her. Let's see what's going on there. And it's been great. I utilized it to book an emergency appointment or whatever it might be. So we're excited for that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, and it's always cutting edge. There's always something new that, is at your fingertips. So I'm sure, being as progressive as you guys are, you'll continue to find those opportunities to really improve the efficiency and time, getting that time back, to spend more time with patients. So as we wrap up, I'm just curious. I typically ask all the guests this. You've been in practice now for how many years?
Oh gosh, we opened our doors in 2018 and then we moved to a bigger location in 2024.
Okay. And so looking back, the past 8-9 years, is there anything that you wish that you knew then, that you know now, that you can impart that knowledge or advice to other small practice business owners?
I think the biggest thing for us is the staffing. It's going to happen. We have to fire people. It just doesn't work out. And those are always tough conversations to have because we're a small practice and it affects us if somebody's not doing their job effectively. We're small. There's not a lot of people to pick up the slack, and it's not fair to those other people to pick up the slack. And sometimes those things they are really hard conversations to have. And in a small dynamic, it's hard to not let it be like office drama type of thing, right? It's important to nip it in the bud is the thing. Mm-hmm. We've learned that the hard way. We've done it the easy way. We've done it the hard way. And it's the HR side of owning your own practice and having to deal with humans, real people. That's absolutely the toughest part. I could sit there and do the clinical side of this all day, but it's the human side of it, of people have lives and they have kids and those kids are going to get sick. And we try to be as compassionate as possible about that because we're working moms and we know your kid gets sick, your kid wants you. And we work with a big group of women. Sometimes you throw a male in the mix there, but it's like predominantly a female-driven office environment. And we're two females that own the office, and we find that difficult to separate sometimes. Hey, we're a boss, but we're also humans, and we need to be able to be compassionate with these people as well. So we try that. We try to keep that in the forefront when we're dealing with it.
That's a really, really, really good point in terms of the HR perspective. It's owning your own business once you start having employees, and it really kind of changes the equation in terms of just dealing with other people's lives and personalities and conflicts and whatnot. When those surprises do come up and life happens, how have you been able to accommodate that? And what are some proactive measures that you and your partner take to try and be as prepared for the unknown that inevitably always see's to rear its ugly head?
Well, this morning, lovely Monday morning, we've already had, so that's why it was a typical Monday. We have a hygienist who had a planned day off, and we had planned a locums to come in, and she's been at the office previously. We've really liked her, but this at about 12:30 in the morning, she texted us that she's really sick and she can't come in. So now we've got an entire column of patients that we don't want to reschedule. And we know that they're taking time off of work and they've got busy schedules and everybody has lives and kids and everything. And they're coming in to see us. And we don't want to call them last minute and tell them, hey, we got to reschedule your appointment. So we had to hustle. Everybody else is picking up the slack. And it happens and that's why it's important, we think, to cultivate a team that understands that, hey, there are situations like this that happen. Today's going to be one of those days where everybody's hustling and we're going to absorb that schedule and we're going to make it work. And we're going to double time this and I'm going to hustle here and this person's going to hustle there. And then when it happens to you, and you have to call off one day, we need to be accommodative. Everybody needs to understand that. And that's why we do that. And it has happened where we also need to be mindful. Are we doing this too much? Those are the really hard parts that we struggle with, because once we start seeing it become a pattern, those are the hard conversations we have to have with people. Hey, we don't want to have this extra stress on the staff, and it's hard to do that, and we need you to be mindful of. Or if it's not working out, then we have to have that, hey, it's time to let you go conversation. This isn't working for our team that we're trying to build.
Totally makes sense. I feel like the smaller the business, the more close knit things are in between the staff members, but also how some of those issues come to light even quicker because everybody relies on one another, right? So it sounds like you guys have built a really, really dynamic team who can trust one another, but can also fall back on one another and roll their sleeves up and do whatever it takes to help your patients. So, congratulations. And thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Hingle. Please subscribe and share with others in the industry. But until next time, keep cultivating smarter growth.